The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
As a former New Hampshire state representative who marched with Dr. Martin Luther King in 1963, he currently serves on the New Hampshire Commission for Human Rights. He's a product of Birmingham, Alabama, where at one time he had to guess how many jelly beans were in a fruit jar just to be able to vote.
We've come a long way, but we're not there yet.
Together we will explore the visible laws, invisible laws, and the structures above and beneath our human surface that keep us reaching for the stars. It is his goal to work with you in putting Nashua back on top, to be voted the #1 city in the nation again.
We are in a crisis situation, and that's what we're going to talk about.
I'm Harvey Keye. Welcome to Nashua Strong.
Good afternoon, Nashua. Back again after Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great turkey day. And whatever else you had, if you didn't like turkey, whatever you ate was great. We're back here with, this time, with the trio, I call them, that won big time in the last election. They are now called Aldermen and Women at Large. Now, let me tell you, I always say this to you, that I'm from Birmingham, Alabama, and you might see here a little southern drawl. But primarily I want to tell you that growing up in Birmingham for 17, 18 years, and then after a little bit of school, and I went to Korea, got back and wanted to vote in the late 1950s. And when I went to the registrar's office to vote, the person behind the desk asked me why did I come, and I said I wanted to vote, and he says, well, if you can count the number of beads in that jar, then you can vote. Well, that time, folks, I was tough as this board and was ready to get into his chest and his cage, but he had a gun as big as I was, so I turned around and left. That may be the reason why I'm saying hello to you now. I say that because I think voting is so important. I think we need to keep saying, they're so dry and not so smart and not so embraceable you. Voting is just, what about voting? It has no appeal. It doesn't ring in your ear. It doesn't say it. You got to say it too. So we have to dress it up. We have to make it appealing. We have to make it trustworthy. We have to make it worthwhile. And I'm not going to get into that now, but we will get into it as we move on, not today, but as we go across this horizon, talking about how we could get this Nashua, 90,000 of you involved better in voting. We might do that sometime soon. I have a short period of time here to have 3 of the winningest people in the last election. That was November 7th. We have them right here on stage. They're in your face. They're in your grid. They're going to talk to you about their positions. It's called Aldermen and Women at Large. Now, I've been around here for about 50 years, and I've seen them go and seen them come, but I never knew what they did. But I'm going to ask a few questions. Maybe I've already asked the questions. They're going to tell you, because this is going to be an easy, nice living room conversation about some of the questions I pose to them, and every once in a while I'll interrupt and ask them something to get back on the case. Now let me introduce you to, or am I going to introduce you to, since I know Dave so long and have dealt with him in so many cases, not under the law, but in the law. Dave, would you introduce your cohorts to Nashua?
Absolutely. Well, first, a lot of people don't know me, so my name's Dave Tencza, one of the recently elected aldermen. Here with me, I have very, very excited to have these 2 folks with me because I think I haven't been into elected office before, but I've been around a little bit. We have 2 fresh new faces, which is what I think a lot of people wanted in this last election in the city. Some new ideas, some new energy, and I think they found it in Shoshanna Kelly, who was a creative design, a graphic artist. I never know how you want to be.
I'm a creative director, and I own my own business.
Yes, Kelly Creative down in downtown Nashua here. Shoshanna, was your first time running for office as well?
It was, yeah.
Yep. And you know, the three of us, and we also have here Brandon Laws. Brandon is the Shoshanna, although you're native from New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon is the native Nashuan here in the trio.
You know, I asked Dave to do this because he's been practicing in front of the Nashua Democratic Club.
Yeah.
He has to practice because they won't let him off the hot iron. But Brandon Law is his name. Dave almost didn't say it. It's Brandon Law. And he's not a lawyer.
Nope, not a lawyer. His dad is.
And the young lady here is Shoshanna. I said it right. Shoshanna Kelly. And she has a business downtown. And she's a graphic artist.
I'm in advertising and branding. So actually, I'm the
Advertising
writer
and
side.
branding.
Yep.
That comes under marketing.
It's a little bit different, but similar. You can say that. I do a little bit more integrated, holistic looks at companies. So marketing might be, I need a single flyer or a single brochure, or can you make this sign for me? And I do something a little bit more in depth. I worked in Boston before with two of the biggest
That's a
agencies.
whole big background, just working in Boston, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And let me just say this to her. I saw, didn't tell you, I became ambassador to the Nashua Soup Kitchen.
Okay.
Got a new title. Michael said, we need somebody like you to get all this food into the kids' hands. He said, would you like to do it? We said, yep, we did that. And I think he got my cards, and I am now, in addition to all those other things, the ambassador to the city of Nashua for food for the kids. And that's crucial. That's crucial, folks. But for you,
You can just call me Show. Everybody
okay.
calls me Show.
I saw a brochure that she made that I want, and I'm going to use it as my calling card for most of the major grocery stores and chains in the city and around the state to get food for the kids. Now, we have too many kids going home on weekends and weeknights without food. You can't learn if you're hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And folks, I want you to hear what I'm saying because they'll be knocking on your door to get your help. And we can't allow that in a city like this, who's been in the top 20 cities in the world, in the country rather, of the best cities to live and raise a family. And we have 12,000 kids or 5,000, I don't know the number. It's 4,000, too many kids who are hungry at night on weekends. We'll be back at you about that. So let me get back to my guests now. And as Dave has introduced them, I want to ask them one question first, and then we go right along. We'll tag in the others. Where did you grow up? Nashua. And what did you do while growing up? A lot. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Moultonborough, New Hampshire.
Moultonborough.
Not a lot of people know it.
Is that Castle in the Cloud?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Almost walking distance from Castle in
Yeah.
the Clouds, but tiny little town on a lake town.
Yeah.
So a lot of summer tourists there.
And Dave, where did you grow up?
I grew up down in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Worcester?
Yep, that's where I was born. That's
Yeah.
where my family, most of my family still is.
What attracted you to Nashua?
You know, so I met my wife, who's from Nashua, and in 2007, I was getting done law school. We were trying to decide where we were going to settle, and it was either Worcester or Nashua. I got offered a job up here, and I went to a mentor down in Worcester, and I said, you know, Franny, I got offered this job. You know, what do you think in Nashua? And he's a very well-known, very well-respected lawyer down in Worcester. And he said, you got an offer in Nashua? He said, I love Nashua. He said, I sit at Martha's, I go have a drink, have lunch. And he always came up here to campaign as well.
Yeah.
So he's like, if you'd be served well if you went up there to live. And so we moved up here. I started working, and I just fell in love with it. Really got
That's great.
Involved, and
That's great.
been here ever since.
And what show? You came from Moultonborough all the way over here.
Well, kind of a similar story to Dave here. I went to Boston University for communications, and I met my husband, who's an engineer.
Okay.
We're like yin and yang.
Yeah.
And he actually got a job at BAE. So
Okay.
after school, we moved up, and I never thought I would move back to New Hampshire. I was kind of like, I'm moving on. I'm going somewhere else. And I've fallen in love with Nashua.
Yeah.
And we
It's a
put down
great
roots.
city.
It really is.
Welcome. I hope you like it as much as I like it.
I've been here 12 years. I love
Yeah,
it.
that's great. Now, what was your first job out of college?
My first job out of college, I worked for a small web firm in Portsmouth, and I did the commute. I've commuted from Nashua pretty much every job until I finally said, no more. I'm going to open my own business.
Yeah.
Smart.
Great.
So-
How long have you had your business?
It's been about 4 years.
4 years.
Yep. So I freelanced a little, and then I moved into actually dealing with my own clients.
How about you, Mr. Lawyer? I'm sorry, Mr. Lawyer.
I have two sources of income. One of them is I have a small business called In the Mix. I've owned that for probably 3 years. My partner Dan Haggerty and I.
Can you explain it to all of these
It's
beautiful people out there?
it's a liquor catering company. So weddings, work functions, pretty much anything where you would have liquor and you want insurance and a licensed bartender, we'll staff it for you.
Is that a big business in Nashua?
Well, we do all of New Hampshire. So
You do all of New Hampshire. so
when you
you-
include all of New Hampshire, it is a pretty big business.
So you're busy.
Yeah.
Do you need help?
Are you offering?
Not necessarily. No. Maybe for the drinks, of course, but I might come over and take a look.
We have some really proficient bartenders who we sublet gigs
Now,
out to.
let me ask you: do you usually mix ice cream desserts with liquor? I mean, usually when you go, let's say to the by the sea, the
Surf?
yeah, do they have liquor and ice cream? Yeah, usually.
This is the second time you brought this up to me today.
Yeah, well,
And I feel like
I'm
you're
not
leading
playing
me
around.
somewhere.
Well, Dave is a lawyer. He can take care of that.
Talk to my counsel about it. I'm not
okay.
sure.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it, but I think it's a great idea. Ice cream and alcohol are two of the greatest things.
Is that a thing called Fireball? What's a Fireball?
Fireball is
Fireball,
it is they call it a whiskey, but it's a liqueur, and it tastes like cinnamon, like a red hot candy.
And you can put it on
like
ice
bad
cream.
mornings.
You can, yeah.
Would that you like it? You like it already? Look at this. We sold something in. Your first job, and the question I sent you these questions, so you've practiced these questions. I think maybe. How do you see diversity in Nashua? And what do you think of immigration? Not necessarily all over the country, but right here in Nashua. How do you think, and I'll lead it this way, how do you think it impacts our 90,000 residents in Nashua? Immigration and diversity. You first.
Well, let me just start out by saying that I am so proud to be a member of this Board of Aldermen that's coming in January. And one of the reasons is that, first of all, 50% of the board is women now. More than 50%, right?
Nope, it's a little less.
Is it less?
7 out of 15.
Oh, I got to check my numbers.
Out of aldermen?
Yep,
Now, the aldermen are not at large. They are ward aldermen, is that right?
correct.
So
And the-
7 of those,
No,
The whole
7
board.
of the total, of the 15 total aldermen are women.
okay.
and 2 are
That's
women of
new.
color.
And 2 are
I
women
think
of
that's
color.
moving on.
It's-
I think
it's wonderful.
worthwhile.
Yeah.
You know, it's really and nothing against the outgoing board, but we had a meeting last night, a organizational meeting, and to sit there and to see the number of women who are on the board, having show there, as well as Linda Gathright, and then just seeing, I think the 3 of us bring the average age down considerably,
Yeah.
as well. It's really it's striking, but it's a nice change.
I think I want to use the word excited.
Yeah.
exciting.
Because
Yep, I
we
do.
are moving forward to a new future. We're not going back here anymore. And we are talking about across the board, women and people of differences are coming to the front to run this thing that we've had in our hands for a long time. And if we measure the progress we made for the last 50 years, it's 0.7%. Where do I get those numbers? I'm not going to tell you, okay? But it's not much. We haven't moved the needle forward enough, and we need to move it faster and forward better. And one of the ways we can do it I think, is have young people like you, and Alderman at large, and we'll get to what you do and what your duties and responsibilities are and how you're going to carry out that task. And the thing I want to ask you and hopefully plant in your mind is this. Respect for self and self-worth is like a circulatory system. It's like the heart of the animal. If you don't have that embedded in your mind that you're worthwhile, you probably won't go too far. And I want to say that to you in the best way I can say it. As you move forward in your duties for the next few years, hopefully a lot of them, that we get to the babies and the youngest people, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, about self-respect, so that they can begin to respect our teachers, our police officers, themselves, and our society. And hopefully we'll get back to civics again. I interrupted because I'm the host. I can do that, you know. So I was asking this question and it didn't get far, but this is such, you know, this is not the last time you're going to be here. So we can talk about these things as we move forward. And then I ask you, you were about to say something, show, about diversity in our.
Yeah, I think that the gentlemen both kind of touched on it, but I think for me the most exciting thing is that we have a very representative board now of our entire city. And if I could talk about diversity, I grew up in Moulton Borough. I was the only person of color for probably an entire, 100 miles. And now, that's an exaggeration, but it's pretty close. When I moved to Nashua, I was so proud to have my daughter going to school with so many different people. And I think you asked about immigration. I think immigration is why we're all here, and we can't be putting things out there that make people not feel like this is their country or their city.
Absolutely.
May I build off of that?
Yes.
I was speaking to a teacher recently who was telling me that she has students who were born here, lived here their entire lives. By any standard, they're Americans, and their parents got deported. And now they're, 16, 17-year-old kid in the public school system doesn't have any parents to watch after them. It's not just wrong morally, ethically, it's just inhuman, And I think that's one of the problems in politics all over the place these days, is that we've kind of lost our sense of humanity, and we're not looking at each other as individuals. I mean, when people argue against immigration, they're arguing against the idea, and they should really be focusing on the people. Because these are human beings,
I know this is great. That's a great soliloquy about that. But how do we move? How do we stop this snowball of disrespect for people and disrespect particularly for women? I say women because it's all over this, and we don't talk politics and we don't do negative stuff here on this show. But I gotta say that. And nobody asked me, except Dick, hey, Dick, I want them gone. Get them out of Congress. There's no kind of reprieve. And somebody says John Conyers was an icon. He was, but he ought to be gone, in my opinion. And all of them ought to be gone. There's no place.
It's funny, Harvey, because this is the one area, I generally like to think that government leads in a lot of areas as far as employment is concerned, with wages, benefits, things like that. This is the one area where government is lacking behind the private sector, because you've seen reactions from the private sector where if there are allegations, credible allegations, which haven't gone through any sort of court system or anything, mere allegations, private sector are firing people. They're getting rid of them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have these allegations coming against either people who are running for elections or people who are in elected office who are refusing to step down, and the government is not acting at all. And so it is really, it's striking, but it's also a little bit embarrassing that the government hasn't been able to respond.
And I know this, we cannot have that in Nashua. No. We will stop it because you will stop it, Show will stop it, Mr. Law will stop it. We just won't have it. So we're moving on, folks, and I'm so pleased to have these three young people on my show to excite you and invite you to contact them and talk about your districts. You have districts, right?
We're all
entire city.
All city.
Yeah,
No,
all at
are
large.
you cover the whole city?
We do.
We do, yeah. at large.
Each of you you don't have particular parts?
Nope.
Has that, I never knew what it was in the first place.
That's the at large. There's 6 of us.
And I asked someplace down the line up behind, how in unison, if you went to, now let me ask you, I guess I had it here, but I remember, are you like the executive council and the board of the Aldermatic board, MacArthur, where he's the president, are they the Congress?
So
How did,
so the executive council at the state level
Yeah.
is there to work with the governor to approve any contract above $25,000, I believe it is. But the legislature up in Concord writes the rules, writes all the laws. It's not, we're not just a board that approves contracts.
yeah, let's go back. The RSA is done at the House.
House and Senate, right?
Yeah, well, of course, it has to be the Senate. But it's done there, and the adjudicating body is the executive council.
No.
No.
The executive council advises the governor. They approve judges and they approve contracts over $25,000.
That's it.
They don't have any. If a piece of legislation gets to the governor's desk, they don't. And there's no financial ramifications that they're responsible for. They don't.
They
have
don't
any
see
say.
it. Okay. So what in comparison, how do you fit with the city government?
Well, we're the.
Do you look at what Jim Doncher's his contracts and agreements?
If he proposes, so the mayor can propose ordinances or resolutions, including every year the mayor has to propose his budget, and then it's reviewed by the Board of Aldermen.
By the Board of Aldermen.
Right.
Are you part of that?
Yes.
Why are you called Alderman at large and they're not called Alderman at large?
Because we get it 4 years, and we actually help the entire city. So there's 9, ward aldermen, and then there's 6 of us who are also, I almost think of us as like bolstering the ability to go out and talk to people. But we do get the 4 years instead of 2 at ward alderman.
You know, there's another question I ask, but I ask this all of the time, only because I did it 70 years ago. In the community that I was handing out flyers, every 2 miles, I would get 5 or 6 people who agreed with my position to be the listening ear and the contact person and the outreach people in that area. So I had, hypothetically, 10, 50 people, but 5 here, 5 here, 5 here. So when I went back to run, I was already in because I was in contact and I heard what they were saying. Are you able to listen to the people who say the potholes all over my street, or I can't park downtown because I'm going to get a ticket for $10 for getting a $2 painting from your store?
We listen to all that. I mean, we don't get inaugurated. Well, Dave actually was inaugurated was the second week in November, because David Dean resigned, and so he filled his.
Yeah.
But we don't get inaugurated for another month, and I'm getting phone calls every day from people, from anything from, potholes, overnight parking. I have a buddy he's a disabled vet who called me for some help with the VA. So I imagine we're going to be doing everything from taking care.
And when you get the phone call, Brandon,
yes, sir.
Do you let them know that you got the phone call and here's what's on the table?
Sometimes. The thing is, I'm just a citizen until January 7th.
Well, I know you're not going to do anything. You're probably going to you're going to drink I didn't say drink a lot of liquor, but he's going to serve a lot of liquor between now and then. But in the meantime, let's say after you inaugurated and you're blessed and handed it down, when you get a call, not a complaint, but an observation, would you share it with them?
Yeah, of course.
And you would share it with them. So you sit down at a table and put this stuff on the table. Now, someplace down, I guess maybe 1700s, there's called a Canonis law, rule, where the physicists and the physicians and the astronomers had problems, but they lived far away from each other. And what they would do is come once a year to the table and put those problems on the table. And that's how they resolved in a collegiate manner talking about the problems. I'm suggesting that you do that, that you will do that. I don't know if the other aldermen did it or not, but I know that you are new at this, but you're, I won't say smarter than no, I can't say that. I didn't mean that, folks. But they are new and they are aggressive, and they want to see change come in a solid manner.
And so, I mean, I think to follow up on that point, Harvey, you know, I think any one of us would, if people have a concern, they can contact one of us or all of us about it, and
For sure.
You know, we'll certainly do what we can. I think a lot of people are just looking for information about how to go about.
But we want resolution too. We want these problems. Right. And do you? And now you lived here long enough to know, and I know you know some things. Parking is a problem for the merchants downtown because people can't stand there long enough without getting a ticket to shop for a dress or get their hair done or shop for food or go for. You go into Fratello's and you eat for an hour and a half. You pay $20 for whatever it is now. It costs you $35.
Yep.
So, I'm not asking you for your resolution now, but I'm asking you if you would take those, because I work with them downtown, and I have them on my show, and they talk about that is the main problem, is parking. And it's not an easy solution. It's never going to be easy. If it were easy, it would already have been done. But since it hasn't been done, I suppose I expect you to get it done.
I would like to speak to that. I have a business downtown. I think some of it is perception and some of it is information. Because there are a lot of lots downtown that are very underused. And I think that because we're a small town, we feel like we should be able to park right in front and go inside for 2 hours. But when you go to Boston, you don't think Boston has a parking problem.
Yeah.
Then I guess it's your job to educate folks, huh? So you brought it up.
absolutely
Huh?
right.
To that point, right, my family and I, we went down to the holiday stroll the other day. And we went down a little early because we had to get a table and some chairs set up and everything. But it was still packed. There were still a ton of people circling around looking for parking spots.
Yep.
But the Spring Street lot, which is during the week, it is leased parking spots from 9 to 5. But after 5 o'clock or maybe 6 o'clock,
Free.
it's open to the public. So we, knowing where to park, I drove right down there, pulled into a spot, a block off of Main Street, and we walked right where we needed to go. So I think shows right in some respects that it's really just a matter of knowing what's available, where you can go.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, we'll definitely help the merchants if they want to extend time or whatever we can look at to help them. But I never have a problem. I pulled up right in front of my office today because I had to deliver something upstairs, and I had no problem. So.
First of all, it is a conversation that's going on.
If it's a conversation, then it's a problem.
Well,
if it weren't a conversation, it wouldn't be a problem.
but I think that.
So, I mean, if they're talking about it, then you know there's an itch underneath the conversation that they maybe not finding it is. I think it's, let me suggest this to you, as Alderman at large, you might find a hot button. What is really the problem? Is it that you don't know? You don't care? But I don't think I don't think the conversation is going to stop unless you find some reasonable lack of complaints from the merchants. And that's their business. I heard just recently from someone all of us know, say, if this happens, I'm going to move. Well, we don't need vacancies downtown either. Vacancies don't look good. So I know that you're going to have a great holiday season, but I know that parking is going to be one of your things when you get onto it. I believe. I ask you this. What about a golf course owned by the city? I know you said, what the hell is he talking about?
I was wondering
Yeah,
where
I
that
saw that.
question came from.
Now, where are you proposing? Where do you think the city has
I don't
enough
know,
land? Okay.
but we have some land someplace.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an 18-holder. It could be a 9-holder. It could be something that attracts and owned by the city and bring revenue to the city. If they don't play golf now, they want to play golf later or find out about golf. So if we could have something like that, maybe just a thought, or an ice skating rink that bridges from your shop, there's next across to Martha's on top, where you have kids skating above Main Street. There's iceless rinks available. There's There's I don't know if students are living downtown in those upstairs buildings.
Maybe.
But attraction and appealing the young people to come downtown, they spend money.
Well, I think they do, and I don't know about the ice rink, but certainly one of the topics
That was just you get
I know
to thinking.
you are. I know it is, and you're a big thinker, Harvey, which is why a lot of people appreciate you here in town. But a lot of one of the topics that I think all of us supported in the election in that one during the ballot initiative was the
Forming
the Arts Center. Yeah, Forming Arts Center. So I think I don't know how that topic will come back up in front of the next board, but I think we're all committed to working towards moving that project forward.
Which hopefully will net the same results as the golf course and the
I
skating.
think I think I'm proud to be a Nashuan. I've been here for 40 years, and I just love the city. And the mayor, Jim, has been the epitome of what a great mayor could ever be. I mean, 3 times this guy has brought this city to the top of the mark in this country, top 20. And I worked on his campaign back in the 80s. And we were number 1. And now we're in the top 20. It doesn't matter where you rank, but it's publicized and advertised and promoted that we are one of the best cities in the country to raise a family and raise kids and bring up a family.
May I build off of that?
Yes, please.
I think that one of the biggest issues that Nashua faces is a branding issue. And I think that same thing with the
As a branding person, I would agree.
Thankfully, Shoshanna's here to help guide us through this. But as far as the parking is concerned, just to go back to that, there are 1,400 spots within, I think 300 yards of where the Alex shoe store is, and people just don't realize it. And that's partially government's fault for not advertising well enough and for not getting the word out. And the safe stations thing that the fire department has been doing, which is fantastic. One of the ways that they got the word out for that is they started putting advertisements at Chunky's, so people would go in and see movies. I love stuff like that, and people need to understand how great the city is.
Let me ask you, people need to understand, or we need to have them understand. It's like I had a call this morning about a problem that some people are not purchasing goods and services. I said, who's selling? We're selling. I said, who's buying? They're not buying. Well, whose job is it to sell? My job to sell, not your job to buy. It's my job to sell. My job is to find the hot button in you to buy my service and good. That doesn't mean just you. It's everybody. For the lawyers who get other clients, they have to gravitate to you because you have appeal, attraction, and they trust you. This is 101 marketing. And I ask you that, and I say this to you. You say Brandon. Would you explain that to me? You're a Brandon professional.
Branding.
Brandon Nashua. How would you do that?
How would I brand Nashua? That's a really good question. We've only got 24 minutes left.
No.
That takes
Dick,
years.
Run the clock up. No, let me say to you what I think Brandon is.
Okay.
Repetition, and more repetition of the same thing. So when you finish with me, the thing that left at your, what do they call it, top of tongue?
Key message is what I would say, key message.
Yeah. You remember, the last thing I said to you was, Nashua. Then therefore, young lady, I ask you and Dave and Mr. Law, Brandon, to somehow get a button to say, I love Nashua, like I love New York. That's Brandon. Over, and every time they see that button, it rings up here. And if it stays up there long enough, that's the next thing they think about. That's the physiological aspect of human thinking. It starts someplace, you stick it up there, and it keeps going. Is that close to what you do?
Yeah, it is.
Did I work for your job and for your company?
You're just looking for work. I understand this show now.
You got it, man.
So much of branding is putting the right message to the right person at the right time.
Right.
And then repeating it, like you were saying. So
and Nashua is our audience.
Yep.
All 90,000 of you. Listen, this is Nashua. We love Nashua. They love Nashua. And Dick is telling me, Harvey, you only have 23 minutes and you got 23 subjects to cover. And I said, well, maybe we'll do it. But that's great. That's what it's about.
Yep.
And I ask you, when you take the office, and I don't know how else to do it. I've spoken with Kim, and I've spoken with Jim, and they may not be the vehicle. I know they have important roles in this city.
Yeah.
They run it.
Yeah.
But you guys are the heart and soul. You're the circulatory. You're the heart. You're the core, and you speak for the people. And hopefully, you all have the same number or different phone numbers. When
people call us,
Yeah.
we'll all have different ones. So we just filled out our business card last night. But branding-wise, I think that one of the things that we have to do, and what Dave was talking about, is we all love Nashua. We need to attract people to come see Nashua. I was talking to...
Let me ask you this. I want to interrupt you. When
that's
you
fine,
say,
you go.
Yeah, because this is a conversation in the living room, right?
Yeah, go for it.
When you see, now you're a marketer, and he didn't take all that marketing stuff. He took a lot of law, but you took some marketing someplace. The 101 marketing says, in order to get people over here, you have to, one, be appealing. You have to attract them. And they have to trust you before you ask them for the money. That's universal. Advertising and promoting is a thing that you do over and over again to brand. Over and over. And so who are the right people? Nashua. That's where we work. That's where we live. That's who we want. 90,000 people out there. We keep sending this message over and over and over again. And they will trust you to come back again. They'll trust you to do what they ask you to do. And that is relieve the hard impression of bad parking downtown. I don't. That's a hard job. That's a tough job. The people preceded you have not been able to do it. It's still there. What I don't want to see is the merchants upset enough to move. That's tough.
We all agree with you there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Friends with lots of merchants downtown.
We both have businesses on Main Street, so we know.
Well,
feel
is
that
your
play.
business advertising? You see a big sign out there that says Brandon Law.
There is one in the window now, I think.
Did they not come down yet?
No.
They're still
And
there?
do you have a
I've
big
been in the
sign?
office in a while, admittedly.
Do we see a sign out there that says artistic demonstrations and all the other kind of stuff? Do we see a sign of yours?
On mine?
Yeah.
No, I don't have a
Oh, okay.
sign on.
So
Main Street.
you really are not affected. I'm talking about Fresh. I'm talking about Fratello's. I'm talking about Nashua Corn. I'm talking about Locals. I'm talking Surf. I'm talking about those people got big signs out. And they have to pay for this. So they have to have people down there long enough to spend money to pay for it.
Yep.
And what we have to do is get, hello, my audience, please come downtown and trust my trio of aldermen, new people here, to help us win this battle.
Yeah.
And because it's a battle. We're trying to change minds and change perceptions and how people see us.
And so one of the other topics I think that is a battle surrounding downtown is convincing everyone how important downtown is to the city as a whole.
Now, Dave, that is so important. The word important. What does it mean to the people who live not close? What is the extremities of our mileage from downtown Main Street? 5 miles? 10 miles?
Oh, I mean, really, you think of downtown, it's probably a mile stretch between Southern New Hampshire Medical Center to the top of Library Hill, really. So it's not big, but that's one of the things that for Jess de Pomprion say about downtown and downtown merchants are that they're really the welcoming committee for anyone who comes into Nashua, right?
Yep.
When we go, when we travel outside of Nashua, you go to Portsmouth, you go to Manchester or Boston, you come back because of those shops. You go back because of those restaurants, and that's
You come back where?
you go back to those places, and that's why you come back to Nashua, right?
Yeah.
Because you love Michael Timothy's or
Fratello's.
Fratello's or Jaja Bell's or places
Yeah.
like that, and so really attracting those outside dollars is good for all of us in having a vibrant downtown.
That's so important. And the operative word is how.
Right.
How? And where do we get the resources to do it?
Well, and that's the big question.
That's a big question. Now, if we had a golf course, made some revenue.
So, are you against the Performing Arts Center? Or
Absolutely not. And I was mad. I was angry and wanted
September?
to do some bad things to those people who voted against it. Yeah. I mean, we won by a slight margin. I can't understand the mentality of people who do not. But in our society, we have lost the understanding and the meaning of art. What does it mean? What does it do to human beings to have an art center downtown? What actually does it do to people who go into an art museum or...
You know, and I think it's interesting, right, of these local issues, they don't break down on party lines, because there are a lot of progressive people who are very much into the arts who would say, I think it's a great idea, but I don't think the city should pay for it. So I think there's, you know, branding wise, I think, you know, we have to, the new board's got to do a better job of pitching it, making sure people realize the benefit to the community, what it would mean for downtown, and what it would mean just for Nashua as a cultural destination.
If I could build off that, I think that's one of the things that I talk to a lot of people at the door about, and I think that calling a performing arts center, I think it instantly makes people think, I'm only going to see the symphony there. And this is really going to be a multi-use space with places for shops, and you can go in and you can, you know, rent the area for, you know, something that you want to do in the community. So I think we have to also frame it in a way that says, yes, there's going to be great shows that we're going to attract people with, but there's also going to be multiple uses to this building. And I don't think everyone's fully aware of that.
Right, and we haven't advertised it because we haven't gotten to that point yet. But what we have to do is, again, it's advertise and promote, and it's constant. Then we have to ask, where do we get the money? So what we have to do, in my opinion, I thought I brought you guys here to tell me. I sound like well, maybe I run, who knows? But the thing is, we have to find a resource to have not a revolving, but a continuous contribution of
revenue
money.
stream.
Yeah. Where's that revenue stream coming from? And most people, I think, have not thought about it. It's there. There's a huge amount of money in Nashua, huge amount of money ready to be given away. And America is built on fundraising. We have to understand that people want to give away money. We have to find a way to ask them for it, that they want to give it to us. And we have to have a reason. And I praise you for your intelligence to do that in the future.
Well, to get back to the Performing Arts Center and what you're saying, we can't take it any further without raising $4 million of private, is it $4 million? Yeah, of private funding. So to your point, we have to become professional fundraisers while we're doing this job as well if we want to see, if this Performing Arts Center is ever going to see the light of day.
Well, then I'm sure that you're going to be on your horses as soon as you get inaugurated. I think, and I'm with you. You can come back again. We could come back. We could use this as a platform to I never like begging. Mm-hmm. It's a request, a contribution that you have in your heart to do because you are an American. You're a Nashua citizen, and that is your mantra, if you accept that. You can't receive if you don't give. And we have to plant seeds of giving more and more and more because you can't have a harvest if you don't plant the seeds. So I don't know if we planted the seeds properly in the minds of those people who have the money and the right seeds. You know, you can't plant a tomato seed and expect corn.
Yeah.
You know, you got to plant the right seed about what the benefits are to the city and to the future of Nashua.
I would like to say that I think one of the things that has always kind of tugged at my heart, and just as a citizen right here, like I Every time my husband and I want to go on a date, every time we want to go see a show, and like we have to go to Boston, we have to go to Portsmouth, we have to go to the Palace Theater, lovely places. I would love to keep my dollars here. I do all of my shopping downtown. I go to all the local shops, and I make sure that everyone who is on my Christmas list gets stuff from Nashua. And to cap that off with a show, like that's, I think you have to look at it as to what it's going to happen in my life. That I could actually enjoy. Could you imagine saying, hey, come on over, we're going to have James Taylor in Nashua. It's going to be a great night. Why not?
And it's funny, too, because I was talking with my wife about somebody who said, so-and-so's dance class is doing their first show outside of the studio at some place in Manchester, I think. I think they were going to the Palace Theater.
Yep.
I said to Andrea, I said, well, wouldn't it be nice if they could just do it downtown? Because, we were in Exeter last year at a dance recital, which was great, but it was a long ride for a 5-year-old to dance on stage for 10 minutes, not even. So it would be more of a community arts center, and I think that's what one of the things that people should be educated about, and one of the points that I think people would rally around if they knew more about.
Courier Museum.
Mm-hmm.
It's international now because they've looked forward. They turned the box upside down. They didn't just around and back and forth, and they got people to thinking differently and understanding differences and not shooting people because they are different. And they have one of the finest museums. If you haven't been up there, please go. And the Palace Theater. I'm in there 3 or 4 times a year. And they've turned around. I was there a huge number of years ago. They weren't there. They weren't it then. But now, because of new thinking, new money, and new people, they seat 800 people. And they only have one show. Now, I don't know where the Alex shoe store is. That's where we're going to go, I think, right?
It's the current plan.
Yeah. I was in New Rochelle, New York, just not too long ago, and they had a place almost like Alex's. And I suggested this to somebody, I don't know, Kim or something, but on the first floor they had bumper cars. They had, on the back someplace. They had an ice skating rink on the second floor, or they had that on the second floor. It was a multi-use, multi-name, multi-purpose thing. But they also had a 300 or 400 seat theater, whatever it was. But you could go in this place, and you can't occupy all of Main Street. You can certainly go up 5 stories and have all these kinds of things on different floors, which is attractive. While you at the show downstairs, your kid with your husband could be bumper car riding an arrow shoot.
I like that caveat.
Whatever that is.
She's fine.
But the whole family could enjoy it. It's just about thinking differently and out of the box, and don't be criticized for thinking.
Yep.
That's one of the beauties of this new board of aldermen is that, none of us really have any political experience per se. Dave has a little bit from being in the NDCC, but we have fresh eyes.
The difference with Dave and them, he thinks new every minute.
Yeah.
It's new every minute. It's the stuff. I know the guy's almost when he's a baby. I'm only kidding you, Dave. I've known Dave for a long time. Dave thinks new stuff, as I recall. And I've known him in some instances. It's not about shooting the bad guy. It's about how do we do better? How can we move forward better together? How can we move forward together better? And I think if we keep much of that, not exactly the same words, as our mantra, and keep at it for 3 or 4 years, we will be successful with this. And I'd like to help you raise money.
We could
My
they
checking
do a
account
live
number, or-
feed. Yeah, we do it.
There's a
Maybe we
fee
could
on
do
that.
it.
We're going to collect
do
that
like
for you.
one of those
Send a direct deposit?
phone banks
Yeah,
over the
do a phone-a-thon.
Oh, yeah.
Phone-a-thon.
Hosted
Yeah.
by Harvey Keye.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. But I want to help this city do anything I can help with, because I want to keep it in the top 20, that number
Absolutely.
of the best cities to raise kids and families. because we need young people to respect themselves. You've got to have them respect themselves before they respect their mothers.
I would say too, we need young people to continue to get involved. I think we had a good group of people who helped us with our campaigning. We're new now, but we're not going to be new in 4 years.
Yeah.
And at that time, we're going to need more fresh thinking, more
Yeah.
people who
And
are willing
I'm
to
sure
step
that
up.
as you go on onto your excursions, you're going to invite new people to get on board with you.
Absolutely.
And I just suggested to Gloria Timmons about bringing young people, high school people on the Board of Education.
I think they have a representative.
Yeah, but we need 4.
Yeah.
We need 3 or 4. We need some, and we got to have some women in here too. You know, I got to say that, and I say it because we are so fast to select one of the athletes, one of the guys who's a top athlete to be on the board. You know, I'm not telling you how to do it, but we need some gender differences. We need to bring these ladies on here because I tell you, and I say it to you honestly, as men who have run this country for the last 100 years,
Much
more
longer
than
Since
that,
1776, yeah.
we have not done the best job. And I think we can do a better job by bringing women and differences of different people along with us. We've got to do better. We cannot keep this ridiculous stagnation up for any time. We need to start doing it now. I think we're almost close. I've had a wonderful time speaking with these young people who are going to help the Board of Aldermen and Jim Donches and everybody else who's interested in making this city this shining city on the hill, if that's okay. The thing I want them to do is try to get Jim Donches and the Board of Aldermen to get a button to say, I love Nashua like I love New York. Folks, thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. And we don't get this often, Nashuans. We don't get 3 of these wonderful people coming on board with fresh new ideas to cut through this stagnation and we have done all we can do, and we can't do no more. Yes, you can. You haven't done enough. Thank you so much. Have a good time. We'll see you next week. This is Harvey signing off until next time I see you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.